All right, today we're tackling a huge, high-stakes drama that plays out in boardrooms all across India, the survival of family-run empires. Now, these companies, they're the absolute bedrock of the economy, but so many of them just crumble from the inside out. So we're going to break down exactly why that happens, and then, more importantly, lay out a clear blueprint for how the next generation can not only survive taking the throne, but actually build a stronger, more resilient kingdom. All right, let's get into it. So first, you just have to get your head around the sheer scale we're talking about here. A massive 80%, 80 of all businesses in India are family-owned. Think about that. They're the country's biggest employer, the main engine behind its GDP. I mean, it's not an exaggeration to say they aren't just part of the Indian economy. For all intents and purposes, they are the Indian economy.
But, and this is the crazy part, for all that power, they're unbelievably fragile. Get this, a shocking 70% of these businesses don't even make it to the second generation. By the time you get to the fourth generation, you're looking at only about 5% still standing. It's this huge, predictable cycle of boom and bust. So, what is going on here? Why is this happening?
And that, right there, is the great paradox of India's family businesses. How can these companies be so dominant, yet so incredibly vulnerable at the same time? Well, the answer, it turns out, almost never has to do with the market or the competition. Nope. The problem, it's usually sitting right inside the founder's office. It all comes down to a very specific mindset.
So to really get this, we need to talk about a specific archetype, what's known as the Lala company. Now, this isn't every family business, of course, but it's a super common traditional model where the founder's personality isn't just part of the company, it is the company. Everything revolves around them, and that, well, that's the seed of the whole problem.
I mean, listen to this quote from the source material. It just perfectly captures that Lala mindset. I am God, here to rule on earth, and these are all my servants whose homes run because of my grace. Wow. It's this belief that the founder is this all-powerful ruler, and everyone else, including their own kids, are just subjects. And this isn't just about a big ego. This is the entire operating system that drives every single decision. And you see, that operating system, it creates what we can call the Lala company trap. Because the very things that help the founder build this amazing business from scratch, that intense control, their gut instinct, being on top of every little detail, those strengths become the very walls that stop the business from ever growing beyond them. The company ends up being just a reflection of one person, not a sustainable institution that can last.
And this leads to a really fundamental conflict. You have to ask, what do these founders really want from the next generation coming in? Do they want intelligence, innovation, fresh ideas that might, challenge the old way of doing things? Or do they want obedience? Well, the source estimates that for a whopping 80 to 95% of them, the answer is, without a doubt, obedience.
So what you get is this constant, exhausting tug-of-war. The founder is always operating from a place of fear. Right? You're going to ruin everything I built. And the successor? They're coming from a place of pure frustration. You won't even let me try. It just becomes this vicious cycle of micromanagement from one side and crushed ambition on the other. And in the end, nobody wins. The business especially suffers the most.
And this control, it's not accidental. It's maintained through this whole toolkit of really damaging behaviors. We're talking constant micromanagement, publicly putting down their successors to undermine them, using emotional guilt trips. The whole, why would you ever work for someone else when you have this line? And maybe the most damaging of all, just never, ever delegating any real responsibility, which systematically destroys the next generation's confidence.
So as you can imagine, this whole dynamic eventually boils over into a full-blown power struggle. It's like a silent war fought in boardrooms and over the dinner table, where family loyalty just completely tramples on sound business logic. But, and this is the good news, this isn't a dead end. There is a way out of this. There's a proven model for breaking this destructive cycle. Okay, so the antidote to the personality-driven Lala company is a system called execution excellence. It's inspired by some of India's most professional, most successful corporations. Think companies like Reliance. And the whole idea is to shift the focus away from who is in charge to what the process is for getting things done right every single time. This whole system is built on three really simple but incredibly powerful pillars. First, have a big vision, sure, but then break it down into a super detailed plan. I mean, down to the who, what, when, how, and how much. Second pillar, robust documentation. Every commitment made in a meeting gets written down and tracked. Accountability becomes absolute. And third, resource saturation. Instead of just barking orders, the leadership asks, okay, what will it actually take to make this happen? And then they provide everything, the money, the people, the support, to guarantee success.
And the differences makes, it's like night and day. In a Lala company, a meeting can feel like a mahfil, that term for a social get-together. It's all over the place, it's emotional, and it usually ends with vague promises that no one really follows up on. But an execution excellence meeting, it's disciplined, it's data-driven, and it ends with documented, trackable commitments. You see the difference? One runs on personality, the other runs on process.
Okay, so the big question is, how can the next generation actually do this without starting World War III at home, right? It's not about staging a coup. It's about systematically and respectfully introducing a new, better way of working. This is the practical blueprint for turning a company that runs on one person's personality into a powerhouse that runs on process. And the core principle here is simple. Power in a family business isn't taken, it's earned. You can't just walk in and demand control because of your last name. You have to build trust through a systematic, data-backed process that shows you're competent and, most importantly, that you can deliver results.
And here it is, that 4-step plan. Step 1, you create a formal business plan, a 3-year rolling plan with a fixed 1-year plan. Step 2, you break that plan down into clear, measurable KPIs for every single department. Now, step 3, this is the game changer. You build a responsibility matrix. It's just a simple chart that lists every single KPI and assigns one owner to it, either the founder or the successor. No gray areas, no ambiguity. And finally, step 4, prove and expand. The successor starts small. They ask to own just 5 responsibilities. They knock it out of the park. Then they ask for 5 more. It's a gradual, respectful transfer of power that's based on proven success, not just on birthright.
You see, this isn't a battle plan. It's a transition plan. The whole thing is designed to be a peaceful, collaborative process. It respects the founder's legacy, while at the same time building a much stronger, more scalable business for the future. Basically, it replaces arguments with data, and it replaces emotion with process. And that really brings us to the ultimate goal here. Because true success, it's not about replacing one king with another. It's about building a system that's so strong, so process-driven, that the company can thrive and innovate for generations to come, long after any single person is gone. Now that is the definition of a true legacy. So we'll leave you with this question to think about. And whether you're a founder, a successor, or even an employee in one of these companies, it's probably the most important question you can ask. Is your family business building a lasting legacy, or is it just repeating a painful history? The answer to that will determine everything.